The best move we ever made was coming to Mexico. The Mexican culture, it is a little bit similar actually to our African culture. So for us, it was very easy to transition into Mexico and make that move. And just the people are wonderful. The culture's rich and colorful.
Welcome to the Retirement in Mexico podcast, your guide to a life of sun, sand, and possibility. If you've ever dreamed of spending your golden years under the warm Mexican sun, surrounded by breathtaking beaches, rich culture, and an exciting community, you're in the right place. We're here to guide you every step of the way with expert insights, inspiring stories, and everything you need to know to make your move with confidence. The best chapter of your life is yours to create. Let's do this. Hello, Glen, Tracey. My gosh, I have not seen you guys virtually in over 5-6 years since we did that webinar?
Hi, Taniel. Probably about 4 years, I think.
It's so good to see you. It's been a while, and I know it's always virtually, but it's fantastic to see you again, and thank you for having us on the podcast.
No, my pleasure. Well, thank you for joining us here. Man, you guys have a lot of experience, and I was really excited when I heard that you guys are going to be joining us on the podcast, because you guys are like citizens of the world, right? You've moved around many times.
We have. We started off in South Africa where we got married. In 2000, we decided to immigrate to Canada, lived there 13 years, became Canadian citizens, and then moved on to Florida, to Tampa, actually, and lived there 7 years, became American citizens. And then at the very start of COVID in 2020, we decided, what are we doing here? Let's go and live in Mexico, and chose Cabo San Lucas.
And let me tell you, the best move we ever made was coming to Mexico. The Mexican culture, it is a little bit similar actually to our African culture. So for us, it was very easy to transition into Mexico and make that move. And just the people are wonderful. The culture's rich and colorful. And so for us, it was such a wonderful opportunity to be able to move to Mexico.
So you, from Florida, I mean, did you guys consider other places in Mexico, or had you been to Cabo before and that was always on your radar?
14 years ago, we were living in Toronto, and we wanted to go somewhere for our wedding anniversary. And the travel agent said to us, if you want to be guaranteed perfect weather, I'm booking you a trip to Cabo, to Los Cabos. We didn't even know where it was. I thought, how on earth could you ever guarantee anybody good weather? And yeah, I mean, we came here for that trip and just fell in love with it.
And that agent was absolutely bang on, because we have like 350 days of sunlight in Cabo. It's amazing. We have very little rain. It's a desert environment. It's a bit drier, but man, is it so nice, because you've got this indoor-outdoor living. You can be active all year round. So having moved from Canada, where we froze as little Africans freezing there, and coming to Mexico, it was a wonderful change. And so the weather's a big deal for us.
And I think something else that we could really relate to was that it's very Americanized, because, it's right down the tip of the Baja Peninsula, right off California.
And we're only about 1,000 miles due south of San Diego. So we have this international airport, Los Cabos Airport, and, we have many direct flights. Actually, I think there's even a direct flight from Spain right now, from Barcelona, directly to San Jose del Cabo. And of course, Dallas, Denver. I mean, there's a lot of really great direct flights. 3 hours and you're in a different country, completely different world.
Right. So from San Diego to Cabo is like 2 hours, hour and a half? I mean, how long is the flight?
About that, 2.5 hours, probably. About 3 to 3.5 to Denver. And it's a 2-day drive. So it's 1,000 miles from San Diego down to the tip of the Baja Peninsula, which most people don't know is like two oceans. You've got the Pacific Ocean, and you've got the Sea of Cortez, or the Gulf of California, where the two oceans meet.
Yeah. And that's very rare because there's no other place in Mexico that has that.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, no.
No. I mean, I've been to Baja California, and when I was younger, I used to go with my friends to Tijuana to party. Then I went to Rosarito, Ensenada, and as far south, I've driven as far south as San Felipe back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
And there was not much going on. I'm sure those areas have been built up by now. But when you guys moved to Cabo, I mean, were you already in real estate back in the States? Or how did you guys get into real estate?
Actually, we were not. We both worked in the pharmaceutical industry. And we always had this penchant and love for real estate. Our houses that we bought and sold, we always spent a lot of time and effort in making those homes beautiful. And Tracy and I always really had the idea of getting into real estate, but with 2 young kids and, schools and responsibilities, that's too big a shift to make when you're in that mode. But once they left home, fair game. And that's when Cabo became a much more real opportunity for us.
Oh.
And
So,
we actually, when we arrived here, the real estate agent that we had used, and we'd used her 14 years ago when we came, she said, do you mind if I put your names in for a show, House Hunters International? Well,
never heard of it.
Well,
and honestly, I just love that show, watched every single episode, and we just said, oh, whatever.
we always used to say, imagine if we could be on that show. It'd be so cool, Imagine if it could be Cabo. And I actually think manifestation's a big thing. So manifestation in life, we very much live by that mantra. It's like karma. You treat everything with respect and you do the right thing. And so we're very much on those lines. And we joked about it. And without even realizing, our name gets thrown in the hat for House Hunters. We do the few podcast calls with the producers, and they selected us. So we did the series here in Cabo San Lucas.
And
So I'm sorry. So you guys bought your place 14 years ago?
Yes.
we bought it 14 years ago, and we used it for vacation. And then when we got the transfer to Tampa, we thought, we don't need a place in Mexico. We've got the beach, we've got the weather, so we sold it.
Okay.
And then when we decided to move back, we actually bought the exact same unit back again from the people that had bought it from us.
That look you just gave me, Taniel, is the look I gave Tracy. I said, that is the most unoriginal thing in the whole world. Go and buy the same house back. But she loved the house so much, and it really was very nice. We had the view of the arch. We knew it. It was a safe option, and we decided to buy it back. And we bought it back for a great deal. So it was a good decision.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I got to ask, if you don't mind sharing, how much did you buy it for 14 years ago? How much did you sell it for? And then how much did you buy it back for?
Okay. That's a good question.
So we actually, when we bought it, it was $210,000. When we sold it, the market had dipped, and we actually sold it for $180,000.
Okay.
When we bought it back for $180,000,
Okay.
and we just sold it for $315,000.
315. Well, that's great.
Yes, and we lived in it for 4 years, so that's a very good return, and we do see pretty good returns here. Obviously, the market fluctuates. Right now, we are in a bit of a buyer's market, which is fantastic opportunity for folks. But, Cabo is, for the most part, quite stable. It's mostly a cash market, and we don't see a lot of fluctuation. We get these dips like we are in now, but it's not volatile. Is probably the best way to use.
And generally, real estate just keeps going up in value.
Sure. Yeah. And same thing in Vallarta here. And I was here during the recession, and, our market didn't, tank 20, 30, 40% because we're not a mortgage-based market, and the carrying costs here are significantly low. Is that the same in Cabo?
Correct. So we track everything because it's great for our clients when we speak to them to give real life examples. So, for example, on our 1,400 square foot townhome, our running costs all in with the HOA was around $400, $450 a month. So the cost of running, once you own, is exceptionally low.
Now, I have to tell you that includes our annual property tax.
Yeah, which is almost free.
Yes. So that's the other thing that Americans and Canadians and Europeans are so shocked at is the taxes. The taxes on that house is only $220 a year, which is what? That's a nice dinner at the restaurant down at the beach. You know, so it is very affordable. And we always recommend to our clients, a lot of them are very nervous. It's the first time into Mexico. And they say, well, should we rent for a year or should we do this? And we generally say, trust us enough that we're going to help you buy something that Tracy and I would buy. Because if you can afford to buy it, you're going to save yourself a fortune in rentals because the rental market here is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if you're not staying in your house, you've got Airbnb, you've got all the options, VRBO, to really get a great return on your property.
And long-term rentals are not cheap.
Yeah.
So it can cost you a lot of money to live here if you don't own your property.
Yeah, and what I've noticed here in Vallarta, and tell me if this is the same in Cabo, because of the pandemic where a lot of jobs went remote and, people thought, well, heck, if I could work from home, why should I rent in San Francisco some ridiculous amount, Seattle, New York, LA, San Diego, when I could live somewhere else in the world at a fraction of the cost, maybe live by the water. And I think what happened was because of that, a lot of these digital nomads, as we call them, moved to Mexico, moved to other parts of the world, and that supply and demand raised the rents up. Is that what you guys experienced in Cabo?
Absolutely. Exactly the same thing that's happened here.
Yes, but therein lies the opportunity, right, Taniel? Because you're buying here, and actually Cabo is one of the more premier cities for tourism, including Mexicans. It's one of the premier destinations like PV, right? So people like to come here. There's a huge hospitality industry. Prices on average are a little higher than some parts of Mexico, but therein lies the opportunity. And but
you got the amenities, though. You got all the amenities.
We have everything here. And like I said, the big one is the weather. We don't have any weird weather, so it's always good.
Yeah.
What is
the weather like year round? Let's say like from the winter, spring season to the summer. What are we looking at in terms of, do you guys do Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
All right. So what do you guys?
It never gets cold here. We don't even own a blanket. I don't even think I've put a sweater on ever, maybe just a long sleeve shirt in the winter months. It would probably go down to about maybe 14, 15 overnight. And then beautiful sunshine, 24, 25 during the day. And then right now it's our spring, but we're actually having warmer than normal weather right now.
So for our American friends, Fahrenheit, 70, 75 degrees.
Yeah,
in the
beautiful.
summer we'll go to 80 Fahrenheit. We get a little bit of humidity July through mid-October. It's not Florida humidity. I don't know exactly. It's definitely not like Tulum or Cancun humidity. It's drier, but it gets hot.
Yeah. Well, Vallarta, we've had an exceptionally fantastic winter and spring. It hasn't gotten really hot until wonderful. About a week ago. It's starting to warm up as we're kind of inching towards summer. It does get humid here. The second half of summer, August through end of September, early October, it gets hot and humid where it could feel like triple digits. But we're in the tropics. You guys are not in the tropics.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So of course, sorry, Taniel.
No, you're saying you guys are in a buyer's market. So let's talk about that. That's good news for a lot of people because, the price of everything has gone up. Real estate has gone up. Rentals have gone up. So buyer's market. Let's talk about that. So have you seen prices declining? What incentives can buyers find right now in Cabo that they couldn't a few years ago?
I think one of the important things is about 3 years ago, we had about 1,200 properties. I'm talking about, when I say Los Cabos, I'm talking about Cabo San Lucas, the corridor, and San Jose, that area. We had about 1,200 properties on MLS. There's now over 2,500 properties. So there's a lot more for people to choose, for one.
And on top of that, we have a lot of development going on. So we've got a lot of new condos coming up into the market. It's driving the market to a buyer's market, which is to be expected. That coupled with the political environment and what's happening in the world right now, that creates that environment where people, if they are looking to buy property or divest some of their portfolio, it's such a great opportunity. I truly believe in my heart that Mexico is going to boom in the next 10 years.
Yeah,
I think
so
Mexico is set for that.
And you know, I think the other thing is sellers have realized that they need to be more flexible on their pricing.
Right.
Whereas a few years ago, it was virtually no negotiating on their price.
And just one other caveat to that. I think what happened with COVID and during that boom phase is I think market prices were artificially elevated and a little too high. So all that's happened is the market's normalized. And so, which is fantastic. I think it's good because people are getting good deals, and over time they're going to see a good ROI on their investment.
Yeah. I say that the post-pandemic money from 2021, 2022 has come and gone. And,
very much so.
Yes.
So we're just kind of like going through the adjustment. And what I've seen in the MLS here, because you said Flex MLS, so we have the same MLS system over here. And I think some owners that got a little overzealous with their pricing, they're now reducing them. And I'm seeing more of our developers offering greater discounts and more buyer-friendly payment terms. Are you guys seeing anything similar like that?
I'll tell you what we're seeing a lot of is owner financing. So this is something that was always around but not really offered, and now we're seeing more and more properties being offered like that.
And actually what is very important for the folks who are viewing this podcast is to understand, that the financing options that developers give are very safe. Usually it's done by progress payments. So whether it's a condo and it's going up, you pay by level, and by the time it's all done, you spread out your payments over a couple of years. For people who've already purchased a home and they want to resell it, well, they can also offer their buyers financing, owners financing, and do it through a completely safe mechanism called a guaranteed trust. And that way it protects both parties, and it's super safe. And so there's so many ways to skin this cat, Taniel, as you know, and it allows for so many opportunities for buyers right now to not have to come in with a whole bag full of cash to load up on a home when they can do it over phased.
And we're also finding, because we don't have a lot of lenders here in Cabo, we have primarily two, like Intercam will offer to American and Canadians. And then we have Moxie, which is just for the American market. But they need FICO scores, they need tax returns, all that sort of thing. Whereas with owner financing, they don't have to go through any of that.
Right. I saw a lot of the owner financing during the recession of 2008 through, I would say in 2011 here in Vallarta, I felt like we're slowly coming out of that recession as the consumer confidence started to inch up and all that, subprime mess was being cleaned up. So I would get maybe between 2 and 3 seller financing transactions a year in which the buyer would put at least maybe 30, 50% down, and the seller would carry them for maybe 2 to 5 years max. And
exactly.
It was an interest-only seller financing. So they would just pay the interest, whatever the agreed upon interest rate, for the balance that they owed on a monthly payment, installments, and then a balloon payment at the end. And guess what? It worked. It's not for everyone, but that option is there. We did a trust and guarantee. So there are multiple ways to put a transaction together. And something you said, Tracy, earlier, sellers, developers are being more flexible. You need to in this market. It's not a seller's market; it's a buyer's market, and buyers are right now they're being cautious with spending, putting all that money up front. So whether it's monthly installments for pre-construction or seller financing, at least our sellers, our developers are open to it because they were not open to it, a few years ago, right?
Absolutely.
So Taniel, we're very much people that we walk the walk, we talk the talk. We're sitting in this house that we're in right now, and we spent the last 2 nights, the first 2 nights we've actually slept in this house. We've doubled down in Mexico. We've just built a home through a developer, exactly what you're just talking about. And we've done it over the last year and a half, where we bought off plan. We've done that in a phase 1 of a development, and it's been amazing. And we've moved into this beautiful home. If I look to the right, I can see the arch here in Cabo San Lucas. It's stunning. And the one nice thing about Cabo in particular is we have elevation. Within about 500 meters from the ocean, we're already into the hills. And so that is very attractive when you're building or when you're purchasing a home, is you've got views.
Yeah.
And the views are spectacular.
So what neighborhood are you guys in?
We are in an area called Altazal, which is, there are a lot of expats that live in Altazal. It's very, very popular for Americans and Canadians.
So we would be middle class American, Canadians. A lot of folks buy in this area. But within 20 minutes radius from us, you've got the Jeff Bezoses, you've got the Jennifer Anistons. They all fly their jets in here, and they've got their places. And they're not quite the same as ours, but they so we have everything and anything in between in terms of the spectrum.
And actually, Altazal is in the Cabo corridor. It's 5 minutes from downtown Cabo San Lucas and the beach, but it's still classed as the Cabo corridor.
So just to qualify the Cabo corridor quickly, it's just a highway that separates Cabo San Lucas, or San Lucas is the name of the town, and San Jose. And that collectively is referred to as Los Cabos. So you'll hear the word Los Cabos a lot. That's what that is.
Okay, yeah. It's confusing for someone who's never been there before. So thanks for explaining that. So question. So the neighborhood you live, you said middle class, and I think most of the buyers that I deal with, they're middle class people that were not born with a silver spoon in their mouth, people that have worked really hard their entire life to get to where they're at today. Maybe they're getting, having their home paid off, they have some money saved up, and now they want to live the dream and retire in Mexico. So those are the people we serve. Yes, we do have clients, in the multi-million-dollar range.
Exactly.
But it's middle America, middle class Canadians that we serve primarily in my market. Is that the same for you? Yeah.
The same. And it's such a great way, Taniel, to get ahead, because what we see here all the time with pre-construction is around 30 to 40% equity gain by the time you close on a property that you've purchased pre-construction. So if you're looking to get ahead significantly on your property investment, that's a very, very good way to go.
So where you guys live, are there condos there as well, or is it they're just houses? Right
now, they are in this phase 1. There will be 60 houses. Mm-hmm. And then when he's finished that, eventually he will build 3 or 4 condo blocks behind the home. What number of bedrooms, houses are they building there, and what's the price range? So where we are, they are mainly 4-bedroom, 4.5 bathroom homes, and they're starting at $700,000.
And that's about 4,000 square feet of total, because it's got a rooftop, but about 2,500 square feet under AC. So this is kind of, for us, it's the most expensive house we ever owned. So it's like, it's a lot. But you can find something very nice starting in around the 300s for condos and up. Below the 300s, it starts to get a little trickier in terms of where people can be located. It's not always Cabo is very safe, so we don't have undesirable areas, but we try to put people in preferential areas that are gated communities. People prefer that. tarred roads, access to grocery, all that sort of thing.
Or view.
So the 3 to 400,000 range, are you talking about a condo or a house?
Mostly condos.
Condos. All right. So let's say I'm a buyer. I come down to you, say, hey, Glenn, hey, Tracey, I want to spend up to $400,000, between 300,000 and 400,000 all in. That means closing costs. I want a place that has furniture. It's a resale. What neighborhoods would offer me that? And how close would that be from town? Would I get ocean views? Would it be an older building? What amenities? What can I expect for 300,000 to 400,000 for a 2-bedroom furnished?
So actually, Altazal is probably the most affordable area for people looking in that sort of price range. San Jose tends to be more expensive. So they can definitely find a 2-bedroom condo. Some of them will have views. And it'd probably be 5-7 minute drive down to the beach, same sort of distance down to the marina or downtown.
Now, the moment you start to get on the beach, a 1-bedroom condo is probably going to run you around $500,000 to $600,000. So but you have the beach, but there is literally across the highway, 150 meters, that price differential is quite big. But of course the views are great. And and for us, it's a very methodical process. We're very much into taking our time with our clients. So what we do is going to make sure they set up on MLS. We explain the parameters. We always respect their budget. That's so important. We try not to get into price creep, push them to where they're not comfortable. That's not how we operate. It's very important for us to respect those boundaries and then look for things within that. And generally a client will say, you know what, I want to up my budget, or we're going to stick on that, and then, we adjust accordingly. But we're very careful in how we navigate that, and we take our time. Sometimes it takes clients 2 years before they buy a house. Sometimes it's in an evening.
Yeah.
They love it, right? You've experienced this, right? Oh my goodness, that pre-construction condo, I want it. And they go and get it.
And actually we have had clients that we have gone and done FaceTime walkthrough videos with the client, and they bought houses sight unseen. We had clients that bought a $4.5 million property from us and had never seen it till just before they closed on it.
But that all comes down to the interaction, the relationship you have with your realtor. And I know, Taniel, you're going to agree with me. It's very important to ask your agents for their credentials. We pride ourselves in educating ourselves, being licensed, being certified within the system that Mexico provides for real estate. It's so important because you're going to have a foundation and an agent that is going to know their stuff, and they're going to help guide you properly versus just being a transactional agent who'll tell you whatever you want to hear, and they'll sell you a property, and I promise you'll never see them again. So that's the difference.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's really important to get connected with a reputable, experienced agent, and one that has a lot of resources, right? And resources means the attorneys, the notaries, different contractors. So you guys have been there for a while. So if someone were to ask you, hey, Glenn, Tracey, I need a contractor, is there a bilingual real estate attorney? What do you tell them?
We have all those contacts, and it normally starts off somebody wanting residency. So we have the immigration lawyer that we put them in touch with, property management, people that can help them get their utilities switched over into their name.
Yeah.
The right closing companies, the right contractors for doing any sort of renovation on their home.
The thing is for us is we don't just sign the deal with the clients. We actually do all the work pretty much ourselves. So we take that moment that contract's signed and we walk it through the entire closing process. Of course, the closing lawyers are doing the closing, but we are there to hold the hand, to guide, to get them the best closing costs, to be involved with that process all the way through to closing day, But not just that, Taniel. What happens after closing is what Tracy's just referred to. Now I've got my house. Boy, do I need someone now, right? Like it's, we're moving into a house. What now? How do I put water on? How do I do this? How do I do? Yeah. We're here.
I want a water filtration system.
Yeah.
I want to put new blinds or curtains in the house.
I need a doctor. Whatever. My tooth's falling out. Like whatever it is, we can help them with that.
I had somebody once ask me, like, hey, where's is there a pet store? Is there
yes.
like a hardware store? I mean, you become the yellow pages for anyone who
100%
know what the yellow pages are.
And that little pet is very important to them. That's their kid, right? So yes, it is important. And Taniel, the other thing is, I don't care whether your budget's 300,000 or 300 million. It's the same importance to the client who's buying a home. The same importance, whether they're multimillionaires or they have only a bit of money available to invest. And in many cases, it's much more critical for the people who don't have a lot of money. So we're very, very careful in how we treat our clients and how we respect that interaction and value that whole process with those clients, because this is sometimes people's entire lives.
Yeah. And also, they're moving to a country where the native language is not English, and a lot of American and Canadian clients, they don't speak Spanish. So they just can't hop in their car, go where they need to go, because they don't know where to go and they don't know where these stores are. So there's a lot of hand holding. There's the post-closing hand holding as
Correct.
much as there is, the pre-closing and during the closing process, and having being able to continue helping and guiding your clients after the closing is so important. Like you said, transferring of utility bills, making sure the property tax is in the name of your trust bank, a year down the road. Don't forget to pay your annual trust fee. Don't forget to pay your property tax and how to pay it. And then don't forget to pick up your registered deed. I mean, there are so many, just getting the keys and moving in doesn't end there. There are still all these steps. And I think, there are some agents who, they don't know, or they haven't thought about, the post-closing assistance. But that is so important. That is so key, because the buck does not stop at the closing. There's still a few more things to do. And that's fantastic that you guys offer that service, because people need that. It's very important.
They do. And thanks for saying that. It is hypercritical to us, and it's very much, for us, very much about our reputation as realtors. And invariably, I'm going to say 98%, because there's 2% that don't get along with us or they don't like us for whatever reason. But 98% of the time, we become friends with our clients. And we've sold hundreds of properties, Taniel. And we have lots of people that are now engaged with us personally. And it's wonderful, because we've got friends, we've got new people we interact with, and we're there for them all the time. They can call us whenever they want. They're on my cell phone. They can text. And as a realtor, that becomes a referral, because they might want to upgrade their property down the road and they trust us.
Do you know, Taniel, something that we decided when we got into real estate was, obviously with us moving around so much, we've bought and sold so many homes. And the thing that just really annoyed us so much with agents was their lack of responsiveness. And we've made sure that we are responsive. Even if we're doing something, we'll message the client right back and say, I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you. So they know they've been heard.
That's one of the top complaints I hear from clients all the time, is when they're talking about an agent they used to work with, they said their lack of communication. Communication is so key, especially in our field where our clients are buying in a different country, that's not native English speaking, and they're relying on us. And granted, we get busy. Sometimes I'm not able to get to an email, for a day or two, but I'll get back to them, eventually. But you just can't ignore the client and just hope they're going to forget about you, because eventually they will forget about you, and they'll move on to someone else, and that's your fault. But in any business, communication is so key, especially in our field, because they're nervous, they're scared, they're buying in a foreign country, and they're trusting you with hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, for
Correct.
them to do the right thing and to safely get to the finish line for them to either get their deed or sell the property, right? So that's really key. So I want to shift, since we talk about real estate. What other neighborhoods are up and coming, or what other neighborhoods right now are booming for expats, and why, and what do they look like? What are the amenities in those neighborhoods?
So we have an area called Pedregal here in Cabo San Lucas. It's up in the hills, and it overlooks, well, depending where the house is located, can look at the Sea of Cortez, or you look out your kitchen window and you can see the Pacific Ocean. So you have this hill that's right. So it's the wonderful.
Best of both worlds.
But it is, and we have a lot of golfing communities here. Golf is a big thing in San Lucas. And so on the Pacific side, it's actually a little bit cooler because of the Pacific Ocean cooling the weather on that end. But on our side, it's a little warmer. So depending on what people want, they'll shift over and do it. So Tracy can talk to neighborhoods.
So the Pacific side, you would get an area called Kuvira. And that neighborhood is very popular for expats too. They have a whole lot of, they have the golf course, they have a whole lot of restaurants in there, gym. They offer a lot in that actual area. And price points, they've just started new condos, probably ranging in the 300 to 400s, and those going into beautiful homes that sell for 5 or 6 million. So you've got quite a lot that offer, for different people over there. You've got, obviously San Jose is extremely popular too for people.
San Jose actually has an area called Palmilla. It's quite popular for folks, not multi-million dollars, the 800 range and up. Beautiful area. It's got these exclusive golf courses, beaches, very, very beautiful area. And I mean, there's these pockets all over this area that cater to everyone. I could go through a whole list of names, which wouldn't be relevant right now, but there's a bunch of great, and if folks want to ask us, we can certainly guide them in the right direction.
And I think as well, like, people always think of Cabo San Lucas as the party town, because generally this is where the younger crowd come to have a good party. And downtown is wild. Where we live, set back, it's a lot quieter. But then San Jose tends to be a lot more of a residential, quieter type of neighborhoods.
But paint a picture. We sat outside on our patio early this morning, watched the sunrise, and I heard roosters, and that's about it. So, and
I get those here too.
We're only about 2 miles from the city center, but it's like in a whole different world. So you can have everything, and you're only a few minutes away.
I hear the roosters sometimes. I've seen the roosters. There was a huge iguana crossing the highway one time. I've seen hogs jumping off the back of a pickup truck. And I even saw a couple of horses mating one time on the highway.
Oh, there you go. Horsing around.
Oh, my God. It's and I think only in Mexico.
but if I can describe for Europeans, for instance, who would want to imagine what this coastline looks like, I would equate it to looking a lot like the Mediterranean coastline. We've got beautiful aquamarine oceans. We've got great beaches. We've got these coves like Pirate Coves. Jack Sparrow would hang out in. We've got these. It's hard to describe how beautiful this place is. The water, it's the bluest blue I've ever seen in my life. And we've been to a lot of countries, and so we have these places that are just pristine. And I don't know about you, but all the beaches here are public beaches. There's no private beaches. And they're very dog friendly. So if you've got a dog, you want to take them to the beach, not a problem.
And actually we have such abundance of marine life here.
Yes.
So starting in about late November, beginning of December, the whales come through, and then they will right through till the end of March and beginning of April. And I mean, we never get tired of that. Always going out on these boats and seeing the whales. Amazing.
Yeah, we have those in Vallarta too, and you can never get tired of seeing the whales breach. It's
cool.
Quite magical.
So cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
guys, why do you think Americans and Canadians love Cabo so much? What's the big draw?
I think the cost of living is a huge draw. The weather, which I mentioned earlier on, and the fact that you've got a lot of things to do here. You know, there's so many things to do, whether it's ATVing, horse riding, surfing, golfing, you name it.
I think, and something else that's important, there's a lot of English here. So you don't need to be able to speak Spanish to get by here. And also we can use American dollars here, which is huge.
So cash. You can take American dollars to, believe it or not, we've got a Costco, Home Depot, Fresco, all those things. So you can use American dollars here, whereas in a lot of parts of Mexico you can't. It's got to be peso.
Yeah. We have an open Home Depot, Costco here. We're trying to get a second Costco. That'd be nice, because the Costco here during the winter, springtime, I mean, it's packed.
Wow.
You have to get there first thing in the morning. You too, huh?
It's so bad. Actually, I'm going to buy a barbecue today because I saw them yesterday. They're on sale. I call
Costco the Disneyland of Vallarta for the
adults.
Oh,
it really is. Same here. Really is. Same here. Yeah.
So, Glenn, a few minutes ago, you said the cost of living. So let's talk about the cost of living. How much more affordable is Cabo? I mean, you guys lived in Tampa, you said, right?
Yes.
So how much more affordable would you say Cabo is versus Tampa or some other big cities? Like talking from grocery shopping, utilities, car insurance, health insurance. I want to talk about healthcare in a few minutes. So could you give me some numbers, what we're talking about?
Absolutely.
Taniel, again, we tracked everything, and it was important for us, if we're going to make a move from Tampa, it's got to be because the cost of living is significantly less. And I would say it's probably half.
At least half.
We have our grocery stores. If you're buying the regular fruit and vegetable type of perishable things, they're very inexpensive. If you are shopping at Costco because they've imported the goods, it does run a bit more expensive than if you're buying it in the US. We have some very high-end restaurants that would be on par with any restaurant in the US. But your everyday, your property tax, your utilities, your cell phone, medical care, those sorts of things are, and car insurance is way, way, way less.
So to give you a ballpark on car insurance, it's about $40 a month. Internet is $20 a month. In our last house, the water bill was, let's call it $30 a month, and the electricity about the same, with an HOA on average between $220 to $300 a month.
Wow.
And then when you layer on the healthcare, Tracy and I won't say our ages and don't Zoom too much, but
you're 40 adjacent.
Our medical insurance, we run around $2,400 a year. That includes both of us, and
wow.
that's more like medical emergency insurance, because we will go to the doctor, pay for that consult, and so on.
But in comparison, we were buying private health insurance in the US, and it was the same type of insurance, just emergency medical, was running us $750 a month. And we're talking 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Compared to
$2,500,
which is what we just renewed for.
And a property tax bill in Tampa of $7,000 in January versus Mexico, $220 a year. So right out the gate.
Obviously this new house is going to run us more because it's a bigger home.
Yeah.
And we don't have we don't have any of those bills yet to be able to compare it to, but still less than what we were paying in the US, I'm sure.
Well, I just sold a 7-bedroom villa about a year and a half ago here in PV, 7-bedroom villa. It was huge. And I think their annual property tax for that big house was around $1,200. That's still nothing.
Incredible.
You know?
Friends of ours owned a similar property in Tampa on one of the canals, and they were paying $33,000 a month.
A year.
A year, sorry, for tax.
Wow. Yeah.
So
what do you think, what are some of the big mistakes foreigners make when they're, buying a property in Mexico?
I think they sometimes, I'm speaking Cabo, I think they think Mexico is dirt cheap. You can buy a property for $100,000. Well, you cannot buy a property cheap like that in Cabo. It's starting at around $300,000. So the expectation sometimes is, hey, I want to be on the beach and I've got $200,000 budget. Well, that's not going to happen, and so then we need to manage that part. The other part is understanding the ownership process, because we are in what we considered a restricted zone, and I think you're in the same situation. 100 kilometers from the border and 50 kilometers from the ocean is considered this restrictive zone. A lot of folks get quite confused by what that means. It's just a different set of rules that you own your property under, but you own your property. People will go online and they'll look at it and they'll say, oh my goodness, I'm leasing my property for 50 years and I don't own it. Well, no, you own it. The only difference is your title is also registered in a bank trust, not a trust as we know it in the States. It's called a trust. It's basically registered with the bank. You pay $500 a year. That's it. And that gets renewed in 50 years. In 50 years, when it expires, no one comes and takes your property. You get a proper title, it's yours outright. So that is often a sticking point because people don't understand what this restrictive zone is.
And that's called a fideicomiso. So if people are looking that up and see that, that's exactly what that is.
Now, if you're a Mexican citizen, you don't have that fee every year. But basically, that's it. It's not a big deal.
I think something else that shocks a lot of buyers is our closing costs. Our closing costs are significantly higher than what you would be used to in the US. But of course, it's being offset by the very, very low property tax that you pay.
Right. And also, I brought this up. Two of the itemized expenses in your buyer's closing cost, the notary's fee and the transfer tax, if those two account to about 50% of your buyer's closing costs, well, those two expenses are deductible from capital gains tax when you sell in the future. So You're going to be able to write that off down the road. So your buyer closing cost in the end is going to go down. So eventually half of that money from the closing costs, you're going to be able to credit that against your capital gains tax, right?
And actually, Taniel, what we do, and I know you do it as well, is when we have a client who is quite interested in a property, we don't have to commit them to buying a property. We'll go and get them an estimated closing cost statement from the closing company.
Yeah.
And we'll explain line by line exactly what you're talking about. What is land acquisition tax?
Yeah.
They'll see notaria and they'll immediately think it's a notary, and the notaria cost is $3,000. In the US, I can get a notary for $10. But it's not the same thing. And we explain that that's an Uber lawyer who takes on all the responsibility for your title. And so when we do that and we explain it to them, then it's like, okay, great. And then that amount generally doesn't fluctuate very much. So you know what you're in for.
And I think something that's important for people to know, because obviously buyers are eventually going to want to sell their property.
Yes.
We have great connections. Our accountant does capital gains strategies, so to try and mitigate as much of those capital gains as possible.
That's if there's a capital gain. It doesn't always mean there is one, but if there is one, we can help really mitigate that impact.
Yeah, and strategizing and planning and have an experienced agent that is thinking ahead for you.
Yes.
It's really, really key, because there are some coyote agents out there you've got a cab driver. All of a sudden, he's an agent. He's trying to sell your property. You just got to watch out for people that out there to do your due diligence and find a reputable agent, find a reputable bilingual real estate attorney, so they too can go through all the paperwork and what your obligations are and what your rights are. It's really important to give all that information to our clients so they know the proper steps to take, and you're managing their expectations, and for them to understand everything from A to Z is so important.
It creates trust, Taniel. And the other thing is, what a lot of folks in the US don't understand is our closing cycle from the time you sign the contract to when you actually close on the property is a bit longer. It's about 3 months. In the States, when you bring in cash, you can close in a week.
Yeah.
So
Not happening here.
No. So we have a longer cycle, but we also have an option within that cycle, what we call a hard close at the end, where you own your property. It's completely closed out, the closing process. We have a soft close option, which is early possession, as most people know it, where they can, if the house is available and it's vacant, we can get them in sooner. And there's a mechanism for that too. So that we do a lot of those soft closes.
So guys, as we're wrapping this up, question for you. What one piece of advice would you give someone who's considering buying a home in Cabo?
You nailed it a few seconds ago, is ask questions. If your agent's not open to answering simple questions easily, there's a problem. Simple questions should always be quick answers, right? And if they don't know the answer, just say, I don't know the answer, I'll find out. But it's very important that you partner with someone who's got legitimate credentials.
And has experience.
And it doesn't take long, because most of our clients, let's give them credit, by the time they're buying in Cabo or San Jose, they bought and sold multiple homes. So for the most part, they understand their process. So we've got to respect that. And if I cannot talk to you at that level on some basic real estate stuff, bing, 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 alarms need to go off, because then it might be the guy that's been selling timeshare down the road for the last 50 years, and he's trying out real estate perhaps, so he's kicking the tires of real estate. Doesn't mean that timeshare is bad. It's just not the right course for this guy.
It's a different business.
Exactly. So, and please ask. I'll pull my license out and show you. I'm happy to show you my credentials, because it's important that you understand that you're partnering with educated people and people that know how to protect you.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, as we wrap this up, how can people reach you?
Well, we like carrier pigeon and smoke signals, because that's very reliable.
And rubbing their thighs.
Drums are good. No, they can contact. We work for a brokerage called Selling Sur. Sur is south in Spanish, S-U-R, Selling Sur. And
actually, Glen has a US number, and I have a Mexican number. So people often prefer to just, use the American number to get hold of.
And I'm sure you can put that on the podcast somewhere, but they can certainly contact us at the Muirs at sellingsur.com. And I'll give you that information.
Can you spell that? The THEMUI?
The Muirs, MUIRS at selling, SUR.com.
Okay. The Muirs at
sellingsur.com. Correct.
Perfect. Well, we'll put your email and your phone numbers and the details of the podcast.
Thank you.
You guys, thank you so much. It's so nice seeing you again virtually, and I hope to see you in person real soon. So come to Vallarta, or I'll go to Cabo. There are direct flights now, right?
Mi casa es su casa.
Perfect. All right, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Taniel, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you to everyone who actually listened to the whole podcast. It's wonderful because then people are really interested. And we're here to help. I know, Taniel, you're the best agent in PV. And I hope that if people are looking in PV, that they most certainly should be going to you directly. So thank you for including us. We're excited to have had the opportunity to share a little bit of our story with you. Thank you.
Well, No, thank you so much. And I would love to come back and revisit you guys and have another podcast soon and just kind of see where the market is at, what's been going on, and kind of share some valuable information with our audience. Thank you so much.
We would love that
guys.
too.
All right.
Adios, amigo. Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
Adios. Bye.
Thank you.
Your retirement in Mexico starts right here, and we're excited to be part of your journey. Every episode, we bring you the magic of Mexico, insider tips, and expert advice to help you take that next big step with confidence. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others like you discover the endless possibilities waiting south of the border. Got a topic you'd like for us to cover? We'd love to hear from you. Send your suggestions to info@tanielchemsian.com. And remember, a life well lived isn't left to chance. It's created with intention. See you next time.